just got a technical issue. He needs to reload some stuff.
All right. We're waiting for the... Okay, here we go. Thank you, Rob. This is the Thursday, September 11th, 2025 meeting of the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee. I am in chambers this morning with Vice Chair Deborah Dawson, legislators Shauna Black and Randy Brown, and Lee Shurtleff is excused this morning. Are there changes to the agenda? I would simply mention that there is a resolution about appointment to the TC3 Board of Trustees later in the agenda, and if we want an executive session for that, we will probably do that at the end. It'll be up to this group. There is a recommendation from a subcommittee on that. Public comment this morning. I have one blue card from Peggy Coleman. Peggy, if you'd like to find a microphone, we're glad to hear from you this morning.
I can even use the official statement microphone. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you all. I am here because I noticed on your agenda there is a proposal or potential discussion, at least, to increase the room tax for the Tompkins County community. And I have to share that while that may seem like an easy way to generate additional revenue, it is not a business smart decision. If you were to look at the competitive analysis of the communities that Tompkins County competes against, where we are going for meetings and conferences, basically outside of New York City, Tompkins County would be the highest. The majority of our room inventory is in the city of Ithaca. So right now, there is a county-wide 5% room tax. For any properties located inside the city of Ithaca is another 5% room tax, and then 8% sales tax, which puts us at a competitive disadvantage when we are going out and bidding on meetings and conferences compared to Syracuse or Saratoga or Albany or Rochester, Buffalo, Corning, all of the communities that can host that same business. When meeting planners are looking and comparing apples to apples, what we have to offer, that additional percent is going to kick us out and we will lose that business. The other component is right now, the tourism industry, we are not in the greatest of shape. With the travel bans, the impact at Cornell University, with the loss of international students, it's not just the students that we lose, but we lose those families who come and travel with those students. Our international visitation at the visitor centers is down, especially Canada. Year to date, we are down 72% from our Canadian visitors. So I'm just asking you that you please reconsider making that increase. This is not the time. This is not the business climate. And if we want to help our community succeed and continue to generate that additional sales tax that supports all the rest of the work that you do, I urge you to not increase the room tax. Thanks.
Thank you. Peggy is, of course, the CEO of our local Tompkins County Chamber of Commerce. Any other public comment? No one on the screen. Let's take the minutes of August 14th, please. Moved by Shauna. Is there a second? Seconded by Randy. Discussion about the minutes. Ready to vote? Those in favor? That's unanimous. Chair's report, I would only say that we've had two very successful EBC, Expanded Budget Committee meetings, one last week and one last night. We'll have another one tonight. We've been hearing from our departments, which is always very informative, and we appreciate that. And we will continue until we've had all the departments and agencies in, and after that we'll have some meetings and talk about making amendments to the proposed administrator's budget. Veronica hasn't arrived yet, so we'll postpone the Workforce Diversity Inclusion Committee update. And I guess that brings us to the question we just heard talking about. This is the possible increase in the hotel room occupancy tax. And who's here to talk to us about that? Nick? Nick Helmholt from our planning department.
Good morning. Thanks for getting this on your agenda today. I hope you all had a minute or two to read through the memo that was in the packet. I did want to highlight a few things that were not covered in that memo, intentionally, I'll say, also just due to time constraints.
Excuse me, Nick, but just remember, we're also sending this out to the public.
Yep.
So there are things that we may have seen that they haven't heard about.
Of course, and I'll go through the details in the memo as well, but I just want to highlight a few things that were not in there just, for practical reasons.
Thank you.
One was just the procedure for changing state law. I think, as elected officials, you have, some experience and background in that, so I didn't get into that level of detail. Of course, due to the timing here, we have not done any formal outreach, or really for that matter, informal outreach to lodging establishments around the county about their perspective on this topic. We also didn't get into the timing of how long a change like this would take to come into effect. And as Peggy just reminded me, did not get into the distribution of our county's hotel room inventory. We effectively have two tax rates for lodging, room tax lodging in the county because the city has its own tax. So those points aside, I'll just jump into the memo and happy to answer questions as I can here. So since 1989, Tompkins County has had a hotel room occupancy tax. This is something that is authorized due to a state enabling law. And I believe there's a citation in there that will allow you to see that law and read through it. It allows us to charge a tax up to 5%. So if there's a desire to go beyond that, it would require a change to that state enabling law. There are a few nuances here within the county. Notably that in 2021, the city of Ithaca began to charge its own room occupancy tax just for hotels and lodging within the city. This is used exclusively to support the downtown conference center expenses. So we, depending on where you stay in Tompkins County, your room tax rate would range from 5% if you're outside the city to 10% if you're inside the city. So there's that piece, I think, just to be aware of. I did a little bit of background research on taxes in other locations. There's some survey research that have been done by the U.S. Travel Association, which is a trade group for that travel and tourism. In 2023, they found a nationwide average lodging tax rate of, wait for it, 15.22%, and within the Northeast region, that was 14.64%. So, by this measure, we're basically near or slightly above average when you take into consideration sales tax, which in New York State also applies to overnight lodging. Within the state, we're pretty much right smack in the middle in terms of, where the sort of distribution of room tax rates are. There are, I believe, how many do we have? 57 of New York's 62 counties have established room occupancy taxes, and Tompkins is among 16 others with a 5% tax rate. So I think it's the most common rate of any among the counties. New York City's 5 boroughs have a higher tax rate, and along with 5 other counties, which were listed in the memo. And then in addition, I think the other nuance here is that there are municipalities, such as the city of Ithaca, that have overlapping municipal room taxes. So to the extent we can kind of see that in tax law, those rates range from 1.5% to 7%. And there's a little bit of analysis on that. So a little bit of the background history and comparison, where we stand sort of. But ultimately, I think the piece of this memo that I think I'd draw your most attention to is asking who pays room tax. And the research on this really presents kind of a mixed picture, depending on how you look at it. We have some indication that people, who are choosing their destination before they choose where to stay are less sensitive to room tax. However, there's also some contradicting evidence from the U.S. Travel Association that about half of travelers have changed their plans due to higher travel taxes. And that might include things like staying at a less expensive establishment, shortening their trip, or changing their location, or the time of their visit. So the more sensitive piece of the market really is the group travel segment. This is folks who are looking to bring larger room blocks into to visit a location, whether it's for a meeting, a conference, an event, a tour bus, things of that nature. Those folks are much more sensitive to the costs that can basically reduce the value of the benefit they're providing to their customers. And they're typically getting quotes from multiple locations and making sure that tax rates are clearly stated so they can see those side by side. So there is some research that shows that group tour operators are far more sensitive to tax rates than individuals who are planning travel. So I point that out partly because we have the research there and partly because we have the recently opened, just fresh off its 1-year anniversary, Ithaca Downtown Conference Center. I think there is a potential negative impact to increasing the room tax on that facility's ability to book business out into the future. And so I just would, add a note of caution there. On the flip side, additional tax, has the ability to fund a variety of initiatives, both established or new within the county. These, range from existing and new programs within the tourism program to other county operations. But I would also, add one last piece of caution here is that really the strongest complaint we got on our recent visitor profile study was the cost of lodging within the county. I think we had approximately 20% more people who complained about it than were satisfied with it. I can pull the slide for that for more detail. But adding to the tax rate would only sort of exacerbate that issue. Memo closes with just a very, I'd say, round estimate on the high side of what you might expect for room tax to generate annually at $835,000. That's sort of assuming that no demand shakes off, that nobody changes their plans because of a higher tax rate. So I would say that's a extremely optimistic estimate. So yeah, that's basically the summary of the memo. I'm happy to answer questions from the group.
Questions? Shauna, then Randy.
Hi, Nick. I have a few questions. I was wondering if someone stays at the hotels that are located on the commons, is parking typically included in that?
I actually don't know. I could do some research and get you I think maybe Peggy might have an answer to that. I see her. Peggy, if you want to sit up front or something with us.
Yeah, come on over here, Peggy.
Respond to that, we're glad to have you. That's fine.
Breakfast.
Breakfast of Champions.
Yep.
So I can tell you that the Hilton Garden Inn does, they have designated spots in the Seneca Street garage, and they validate parking. So the hotel actually covers the cost of that parking. The Canopy Hotel, they have valet service available. I do not believe they cover the cost of that parking, though. I think the guest is if they're self-parking, they're paying for the parking. For the valet, I think we have to verify that. The same thing with the Marriott. They have designated spots in the Green Street garage, and they also offer valet parking, but self-parking guests pay for. And then Hotel Ithaca has their own parking lot, so there's no charge to their guests for parking there.
Okay. I would love it if we used to receive, I'm not sure if I think it was this committee, the hotel room tax, and then we would also see the people that are not paying their hotel room tax. Daryl, if that is something that we can have access to, I would love to see that, because there were a handful of people that were violating that. They were actually collecting, but not paying the county.
I think that would have been confidential, though, when maybe,
No, it was not confident.
the ones that weren't paying, I mean.
Yeah, we could not say their names out loud, but I think it's important for us to know who they are.
At the very least, I can look into it.
Okay, and I think at one point we were actually pursuing legal action on
Yeah,
those individuals.
I thought we got it, we got some of the
Yeah.
deadbeats to pay up.
So I actually travel almost every weekend, and it's interesting because it doesn't matter where I am, there's a certain amount of taxes that I expect to see on my bill. And many of the places that we travel, there's an extra $10 to $25 per day for parking. And the taxes range from 9% to, I mean, we've gone to Canada, and sometimes it's up to like 18% because they have the 12% HST. And so, you know, I think whenever I look at this, I understand the economy's down. We have a convention center that's struggling. But I can't imagine that it's 1%. So at most, I mean, I guess some of our rooms go up to $400 a night. You know, it could be $4 extra per night added to their bill. So I think our taxpayers are burdened enough, and while I understand that this goes into a different pot of money, it would help our arts and culture and allow for them to have more funds. I'm fine with increasing the hotel tax to 1% there.
Randy, then Deborah.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I did read the memo. I think it was well done and good documented. I really appreciate it. It was very complete and detailed. And Peggy, thanks for your thoughts and concerns, and I understand that. When I first brought this up, my biggest issue was the airport and that it needed funding. And so it seemed like a nice little match for that. And it still needs funding, so we're still in the same boat. I get that the conference center is a big investment, and that we need more people to come here to stay in that, to come to conferences. I think there's other issues that are causing problems for that, not just cost. And hopefully those things are being addressed that will help that. But I support it. I realize it's a process. It takes a while. But I do have a question. So when the city got their 5%, they have to go to the state as well to get it approved?
Correct, yeah, there's a state enabling law for the city. For every municipality that collects room occupancy tax, there's a state law, which is how I was able to get the numbers in this memo.
Right. And I see how timing could be a real issue now with what's going on with Canada. I have friends in Canada, and they're not coming down. So they're, for whatever reason. But how long would this process typically take if we did apply for it?
That's a great question. I think we would need to engage with the offices of Anna Kells and Leah Webb to kind of get a sense of timing and how this would go through the state process, because I'm not as familiar with that.
Okay.
I think quite often those kind of bills come at the end of the session.
Yeah, so it would be, what, like next May?
Next April, May, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I do support it. I think that we need to figure out ways to get revenue, and this is one of the few ones we have. So,
Deborah?
Yeah, first I have a question. Norma, this came up last night because I thought the extra room tax was going to the airport, and Shauna pointed out that it was the sales tax on
On the short-term rental.
the short-term rentals, and Shauna's correct, right?
Right, but there is also within the proposal, of course Shauna's correct. That was right, that's the right answer, right?
Oh, for God's sake.
But
Shauna, who clicks on things that come in emails. Yeah.
also within that proposal is a request to use $500,000 of room tax as well. So there's 1.1 million of sales tax, $500,000 of room tax reallocation, and $371,000
Of tax
of
levy.
tax levy.
Okay.
I think I
want to
have
be
that.
sure I understand that.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
So my thoughts, first of all, thank you, Peggy, and thank you, Nick, for a well-rounded understanding of the potential impact this is going to have. So my concern is that as I understand the local economy, our three major economic drivers are education, healthcare, and tourism. If we, in any way, make tourism more expensive in an already challenging environment, what we lose out on is the tourism support of our sales tax, which is important to us as a county. I think far more so than hotel tax. Sorry, Nick. We lose the support of the hospitality industry that employs quite a lot of people in our county. I'm not really supportive of doing this if it's going to have that kind of impact, and I think we need to think carefully about it. Frankly, I will say at this point that the only money I'm willing to give to the airport to reduce the enplanement fees is the 1.1 million of sales tax. We're reducing enplanement fees by whatever that $1 million will buy down. I don't think we should be using tax levy, and I don't think that we should be in any way threatening our tourism industry in an environment that's already extremely challenging. So I'm really having second, third, and fourth thoughts about increasing the hotel tax at this point.
I wanted to ask Norma. Norma, does county administration have a position on this or a recommendation?
I have not spoken with Corsa about that, so
Okay.
I would not want to.
All right, we'd like to know if there is a recommendation on that. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to support this, and I think what we have to do is support the airport for the economic development. And tourists do come in on airplanes sometimes, and they spend money here in hotels and rent cars and visit the parks and other things like that. Deborah, I hear what you're saying, and I certainly understand what you're saying, but I do think that trying to return our airport to a strong center of transportation is so important. I guess I'll just say on the side, that's one of the reasons that I've supported the idea of making it a true transportation hub with inner city buses and other things coming in there, and then perhaps shuttles into the city. Much better location for people to come and go than on the curb on Green Street. I've talked about that for a lot of times, but I know the city isn't terribly in favor of that. But as far as this resolution is concerned, I'm going to support it. Randy.
Yeah, it'd be, I assume that we're tracking all the hotels and what they charge. Is there like a report that shows every hotel, what they're charging and currently charging, how it's changed? I imagine the prices have probably gone up. So do we track that stuff? Or?
So there's two pieces of information. When hotels submit their quarterly room occupancy tax returns, they do report that. That is a confidential return, so we don't share that level of detail back out. But more, I think, significantly in the piece we can speak to is what we gather through the Smith Travel Research, STAR reports, they're often referred to. And that's a survey that's conducted, I believe, monthly, of any lodging establishment. It's actually national, and we get a Tompkins County and City of Ithaca report back. So that provides us with the average daily rate, occupancy rates, revenue per available room, supply and demand, aggregate for both the city and the county. And so we can speak a bit to that in terms of how the market is changing and has changed over time.
It'd be cool to see just the data on that, not specifically to a hotel, but just understand how you guys are looking at it.
Nick, could we see a proposed resolution on this at our next meeting?
We can certainly draft that, yeah.
That would be something more. We can have this discussion continue next time. This is just a discussion piece today. Other questions or comments? All right. Veronica.
I guess everyone's already said what I'm thinking, but to put it out, I would also support this. I think it's, if we're potentially deterring tourism to collect funds to support tourism, it sort of all goes in a circle. I have liked, since I learned about it, Mike's idea of a intercity bus hub up at the airport, provided that there's also, easy local bus transportation to it, but that's a thing for another time. And Shauna, thank you for asking about the parking. I hadn't thought of that, but that is, if taxes raise costs for hotels, shuffling how they charge parking is one way they could, shift things around to attract or deter visitors differently. Although, yeah, Peggy.
Sorry, I'm not on the committee. I am a guest here, but I just want to clarify, the hotels do not control the parking. It is the city who controls the parking. And so the hotels have no way of influencing that, and more likely than not, they would start pushing those costs back to the guests because the impact, and the other thing I would just like to remind everyone, there is data about who uses the airport, and the majority of the people who are flying in and out of Tompkins County Airport are residents. They are not visitors. So just keeping that in mind.
Okay. Anything else on this? Thanks so much, and thank you, Peggy, for coming in and your comments. Veronica has joined us. We're glad to have her here. And do you want to mention if there's anything on Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee?
Yes, apologies for being late, and I don't have anything really to report for WDIC today.
Any questions for Veronica? This committee asked a subcommittee, which consisted of Shauna and Veronica and me, to proceed with the process of advertising for receiving applications and interviewing potential applicants for the position of TC3 Board of Trustees trustee. That board has a variety of trustees, 3 of whom are appointed by this legislature, 2 of whom are appointed by the Cortland County Legislature, 4 of whom are appointed by the governor, 2 from each county, and there's 1 student trustee who changes annually. The subcommittee met and we advertised, and we received 13 applications, and they were very good applications. We chose to interview 4 of them, and we did that, and then we came to a recommendation. And we have a proposed resolution for your consideration today. And it is, there is resume on your desk for the candidate that we are recommending. And if you'd like to have an executive session about this, we would want to do it at the end of this meeting. Otherwise, we would insert this name into this application or this resolution and move it forward to the legislature. Any preference about that, or just want to move ahead with it? I think it's a person you're all pretty familiar with. All right, then I will announce that the name of the person that has been recommended is Frank Krupa. Frank is a former county employee. He was 14 years as our Commissioner of Whole Health. And he is a Dryden resident, and he's very, very interested and knowledgeable about TC3 board. And we had other good applicants as well, but we thought Frank was probably the one that would bring the best experience to that board. So I would ask Taylor to insert the name Frank Krupa in that resolution, and I'd ask for anybody who wants to move it. Veronica, seconded by Shauna. Discussion. Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. You made that easy. Norma, we're up to you.
All right. Well, we've had our budget meetings, so I don't really need to talk much about that. I do want to say, though, that we had a bit of a change this year, and the budget team and county administration has done a really good job trying to kind of go through the working with a new county administrator, figuring out the budget process. So it's been very thankful for Samantha and Victoria. Just so there's a TCAP budget presentation on the 16th. I think most folks know that. Sorry?
I think it's the 18th, isn't it?
I thought it was, and I've got the wrong date.
Shauna?
I thought it had been the 16th and moved to the 18th.
Yeah, it was moved.
Sorry, yep, the 18th. I apologize, at 11:15. I have it twice on my calendar for some reason.
It's very important. You should have it twice.
Sorry?
It's very important. You should have it twice.
Yes, I should have it twice,
right?
indeed. Indeed. All right, well, anyway, so the 18th at 11:15, please, I just want to make sure everybody knew about that. I think you all do. We have been kind of watching what's happening with the pension rate. So we're hearing that the pensions, we kind of started with one figure early in the year, and now we're hearing that the pension rates for the state might be a little higher. We have not received anything for Tompkins County yet, or I haven't. So we'll keep you posted on that as we go through the budget process, but, sorry. Pension increases, I should say, yeah.
Yeah, I just have a question about that, because everything I'm reading says the market's like topping out. Why is the pension rate going up?
Yeah, I have only received bits and pieces from, Drew from the finance department's been kind of sending things to me. So I just wanted to bring you along. We're watching it. We're trying to make sure that we don't.
Deborah, my recollection is the pension rate is not based on the current year market. It's based on, it may have been 2 years ago, but certainly last year when they do the calculations.
Last year was a good year, too.
Well,
Yeah,
I agree.
It's very confusing.
It is for, yeah, it is for me too. I've
Sometime
been
take a look at
trying,
the
but that's, I just want to
huge
make you
pensions that
folks
are being
aware that
paid
we're
in
watching
some parts
it.
of the state.
Between that and health insurance, it's been quite a.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough, and then we're in a tight budget year. So we're watching it. I just wanted you to know we may have to, we'll keep you posted as we move along where that goes. Hopefully we'll have all those answers before the voting meetings begin.
All right.
Then just finally, Monica has reached out to the departments to ask for any topics for the NISAC News. NISAC News has asked for articles. So I just thought I would bring that up here in case folks have an idea of what an article that they might like to put forth. She's willing to work with, to brainstorm through those, but I thought I would let you know that that's due on September 22nd, and I don't have any other reports.
Thinking about the pension question here, I always remember, and I think it was when the economy was doing well, like in the early 2000s, and people in the comptroller's office were saying, you won't have to contribute anything this year, and you probably won't have to do it ever in the future. I always remember that because I think I rolled my eyes at that point, but there was a couple of years where there was very, very low contribution that we had to make, but that was the time when there was a change in the employee contribution to the pension plan. Maybe Ruby remembers that from years ago, but it used to be they had to contribute, I think, for 10 years, and they don't have to do that anymore. So that had an effect on the pension rates too.
So we're making up for lost ground?
Always.
Thanks.
Randy.
I think it changed under Governor Cuomo, made some changes under that. So right now, for pension costs that we provide, the employees don't have to put any funds in there?
It depends on what tier they're in.
That's what he changed, the tiers,
The
that's right.
tiers.
Okay.
You used to have 10 years in order to be vested, now it's 5. But if you're in tier 6, 4 through 6, you continue to you contribute to the pension as long as you're employed. Those in the lower tiers, they stopped contributing after that 10-year period.
Lower tiers are people who've been here the longest.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Deborah.
That doesn't make any sense either, because the longer you're here, the higher your pension's going to be when you retire, so you should be paying the whole time. This is insane.
Well, a lot of the tier 1, 2s, and 3s may be retired by now.
This tier 2 is not retired.
But tier 4, 5, 6, they are still contributing, and they will continue to contribute.
Well,
But for only 5 years?
doesn't make sense.
No, the 4, 5, and 6, the tiers will continue to contribute based upon until they are no longer employed with in the system.
And pensions are, in New York State, pensions are still untaxable, though, in New York State, right?
That's true.
Federal pensions are,
I think there's no state tax on state pensions, I believe.
Income tax, right?
I'm not sure about that. Daryl, do you know?
I believe you're right, but I'd have to look to make 100% sure.
I know the federal ones are not. Then it makes sense then that the state ones wouldn't be either. But private pensions are taxable.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking about tier 6 and the changes there, which were instituted, as you say, by Governor Cuomo to support the pension unit. In the last legislative session at the state, there was a lot of lobbying pressure to change that, tier 6, feeling that it was costing too much and it was limiting the number of people that were applying for jobs at the state level and I guess other levels because it was not as beneficial as some of the earlier pension tiers. Can't help mention this one. I do some estate work, and quite a number of years ago, I had someone in a nursing home, one of my clients, who was a tier 1, and between her pension and her Social Security, she was able to pay her nursing home bill from current income.
Wow. That wouldn't happen again.
Not anymore, but that I always think back on that.
I just want to clarify, that was tier 5 and 6 will continue to contribute to the pension. Tier
well, that-
4 stops after 10 years.
So keep your ear to the ground, certainly in NISAC and other places, about what's being recommended on, or being lobbied for, on changes to the pension tiers.
Quick question, do the are the pension tiers for our employees, the state employee retirement system, the same as for the teachers' employee retirement system, or the teachers' retirement system? Because they're different.
No, I think there's.
No, it's even better
Okay.
for the teachers.
I think
'Cause
there are
there's-
some differences.
Okay, because I know the teachers' unions made a lot of noise about the problems with Tier 6, but I know, as someone who's signed up in both systems, accruing little bits in both, they're different.
You're a double dipper.
Tiny,
Congratulations.
tiny spoons, tiny spoons.
If you're stay with the teachers, it's better. Norma, anything else you'd like
No,
to say to
thank you.
us? All right, any more questions for Norma? Sorry for the going off into the weeds here. Let's go to Darrell Tuttle, our Director of Finance.
Good morning. I don't have anything officially to report. My staff is just working along. Other than I just presented my department budget last night. The other key item we're working on right now, as I mentioned last night, is we're moving off of our accounting software is on a server, an on-prem server that's not supported. So right now we're meeting with the vendor to facilitate moving to the cloud. And I have administration and ITS working with us very hard to hopefully do that before the end of the year. If not then, by the beginning of next. But other than that, I have nothing else to report and here for questions.
Questions for Darrell? Deborah?
I think this is probably more than an IT question, but it's something I don't understand. When you move stuff to the cloud, I would first worry about how secure it is, and secondly, what happens if there's a problem with the cloud? Do you lose all your data?
That would probably be a better question for ITS. My understanding is, they have to protect our information. So if anything did happen, they would be liable to some degree. But I'd have to reach out to Lauren to make sure that I'm 100% correct on that. If I remember right, there are positives and negatives to having it on the cloud versus on-premise. And some of it is security, depending on which group who believes what. But
Okay.
what I can do is reach out to Lauren or someone at ITS and find out their take on it. But I know they have encouraged me to move to the cloud.
Okay, well, if they're encouraging, I guess it's okay.
Well, I actually asked that question, Deborah, to Lauren, I think at GO.
What did he say?
And his response was that the cloud is very well protected, but there are backup, and there were things that he really couldn't discuss publicly about that. But I think Darrell's right. I think Lauren would be the right person to speak to about that, and he would tell you as much as he's allowed to do.
Okay.
Randy?
Yeah, last time I mentioned about pilot agreements we provide to people through the IDA, and I want to clarify my comment on that. So in speaking to, I'm sorry, what was the lady's name that's from Treasury?
Lisa.
Lisa, there's 42 different pilot agreements, and some are very simple, where it's just this is the payment you make, and some are quite complicated, and it's based on a revenue and analysis, and it's a lot of work. So that's why I mentioned to Rich, when you do those agreements, if they're complicated, make the person who's getting this agreement pay for us to process them. So that was my thought on that, is part of the actual pilot agreement is if you're going to have this complicated process, then yeah, you can do that, but you're going to pay us to do it. So that was my thought on that. But so my question for you first. So I'm still confused on the Airbnb and the short-term rental. So it's going to be it's a sales tax, not a hotel tax. So the sales tax would be coming from the state again? Is that how that would work?
All sales tax comes from the state, so yes.
And so, but there's no discussion on who's going to monitor that the people are actually paying it? Who's that responsibility that fall on? So if they're supposed to be paying it, is it Airbnb that would have to collect it and pay it? Is that how it works? Or whoever it may be?
Yes, it's whoever, they are obligated to collect and remit the sales tax to the state. The Airbnb or whatever establishment that is we're talking about.
And the $1.2 million increase, how was that calculated? Who came up with that number that that's what it's going to be?
That was an estimate by by Nick and his team.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, Randy, if you want to get together and talk about this, we can bring the proposal to the next IDA meeting. At least put it on Kelly Bada's radar, and then the IDA board can consider that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Daryl? Daryl, thank you. Let's go to Ruby Pulliam, our Commissioner of Human Resources.
Good morning, everyone. A couple of announcements here. We're waiting on the final data, plan data from the consortium before we finalize the lower cost option that we're considering for the county. We have begun a data request for the consortium, basically to see where we are, what we're gaining from it, and where we may be able to do better. That includes the number of claims, the number of high-cost claimants, the stop loss, the pharmacy rebates, all of that. The consortium is gathering that information, and they have some, but they've requested a meeting with HR, county admin, and I think it will be important for someone from BCP to also be a part of that meeting to basically review our standing or our status in the consortium based upon the claims and things that are happening. So we're going to wait until the county administrator has returned before we try to look at some dates. So if anyone from this committee would like to participate, Deb.
I'd be interested too.
Okay.
Randy, are you volunteering?
I am.
All right.
Number two.
Number two.
Okay, I'll make sure you're included in the communications. Second of all, our employee picnic, we have our survey results. Surveys were sent out to 795 employees. We had 135 responses.
That's good.
So we're also preparing the report for the total expenditures. That should be ready this afternoon, so I can ship it off to you, as well as the summary of the survey report, so that you'll have that information. We would like to come back in October to discuss plans for next year's picnic, whether we're going to do it the same way, so that we can start planning. The staff starts early in reserving spaces and soliciting prizes and contacting vendors. So we need to have that settled before January.
Can I ask, because we allocated extra money, how many of our staff brought a +1?
I have those numbers, but not with me. That will be in that report.
Okay.
I believe, if I can remember, there were 490 some RSVPs.
Just a ballpark, like a percentage if you...
I think there were, I'll give you those numbers for sure. I don't want to say.
That will help us for planning next year.
Right.
Thanks.
And that's all I have, except now it's Larry's turn.
Larry Workman.
Good morning, everyone. Let's go through our HR numbers again this month. So staff totals, we had 805 county staff. For recruitment, we posted 33 more titles. for the month of August, with a total of 56 on our vacancy page. 20 of those are county titles, and 36 are for our municipal partners. I'm using titles, not positions, because some of those are multiples, like teacher's aides, bus drivers, those kind of positions. For outreach, we partnered with TST BOCES last month for their open interview day. It was really successful again. That's a great event, and it helps that they feed us, so that really encourages us to show. There's a job fairs we went to, targeted emails, community outreach, and of course our online postings that we usually do. We had 448 applications come in. 264 of those were for our municipalities, and 184 were for our county departments. 2 civil service tests, there were 18 applications for those. 3 civil service tests were given, with 12 people in attendance. We onboarded 11 new staff, and off-boarded 7 for the month. As far as our benefits, we had 4 people sign up for the dental, 1 for the vision. 9 of those took our health insurance. Retirement, 10. So we did really well there, getting folks on board for the retirement. Generally, folks that don't do that are like our seasonal workers and things. Leaves, we had 34 disability leaves for the month, 10 cancer screening, 12 bereavement, and 2 for jury duty. And for staff trainings, Samantha's been 100 miles an hour setting up all of our trainings on leadership development trainings, ergonomics 101. HR will be starting a pilot that will span out for the Myers-Briggs, personality, to help with communications. And then Sharps and Narcan training will be coming up as well. And that's about it. Any questions?
Larry, I wondered, do we have any interview committees that you're working with now for positions?
Yep, so our highway director will be doing interviews next week with that, and hopefully have a new director to send off to county admin for their approval.
Well, that sounds like you got a lot of them out of the way that we've had this year.
There's been a lot. A whole lot.
Randy.
Thanks, Larry. So is the 805 employees, is that positions that are budgeted or actual 805 employees currently employed?
So what we have to do is, at the end of the month, the last day, there's just a snapshot. And that's what it shows that we have on the books, is the 805. There may be some in process of coming off. There may be a couple in process of coming on. But that's the best we can do, is just take a snapshot of the last day of the month.
Okay. I think that in the budget presentation that Corsa provided, he mentioned 792 employees or something like that. So it'd be nice to know which ones are no longer going to be supported in this budget specifically. Would be helpful to know what that is. Also, can you provide the 2024 actual budget for wages and fringes and what it actually ended up being?
So that would be something payroll.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that,
Admin,
sure.
yeah.
The actual payroll?
Yeah, what was our
expenses.
budget? What did we actually spend?
For 24.
Just for the county's wages and fringes. I'm just curious what it ended up being.
I can provide that. We can definitely provide that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an audit report, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's in that, it's in the budget, yeah, it's in the online report, but
Yeah,
sure.
but I'm not sure I really understood it. So
Yeah,
that's why
sure.
I thought maybe just something simple would be great to understand.
One last thing is Airport Day, Saturday. HR will have a table there. Samantha and I will be there. Stop by, say hi. You know, we'll peruse the vacancy list and see if anybody needs a new role.
What
To
time does
go
that
with their
start?
pancakes.
What time's the airport day start? Is it 8 o'clock in the morning?
The run is, and then 9 o'clock is the rest, I believe, till 1, I
I
think.
think
is
the
what-
breakfast starts before that.
Yeah, the breakfast is earlier than that.
They might start at 7, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the pancakes start pretty early.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ruby or Larry? Nice report, thank you both. We have a resolution scheduling a public hearing on the 2026 Tompkins County Budget and the 2026-2030 Tompkins County Capital Program. Someone want to move that? Randy, seconded by Veronica. Discussion. It's just a standard resolution, so we can have a public hearing eventually. Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Now we have a contingent fund appropriation from the Department of Emergency Response, DEWR, Public Safety Enhancement. Someone want to move that? Veronica, seconded by Shauna. Who's going to talk to us about this one? I see Jamie on. Is Jamie going to talk to us? Oh, no, Mike's there. I didn't see him. Mike Steitley, you want to talk to us about this proposed resolution?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. So this was brought before the Public Safety Committee, our last Public Safety Committee meeting, but I think we've covered a lot of this in executive session, but this is the resolution that we're putting forward to help increase some security staffing as a request from the legislature to provide some security for legislature meetings. I mean, I'm willing to answer any questions, but I think we've covered most of it in executive session.
Shauna?
I just want to say thank you to Michael and Jamie for providing the information. We discussed this a little bit in public safety a few weeks ago, and one of the things as an elected that I've definitely seen over the past year is an increase in violence and threats towards elected officials. I think all of us heard about the news yesterday and the murder of Charlie Kirk. And they're obviously thinking that it is politically motivated. We also heard about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, of the assassination of the Minnesota state representative. And there was also another shooting of another state representative. And I think, you know, even from the emails that we're seeing locally, we see an increased threat to us that are sitting around the table, as well as to our employees. We've heard from our county attorney at this point that there is liability on the county if something, in fact, were to happen, since we have been aware of this and have been having these conversations. So I hope that we can come together and support the secure workforce, and that our employees can feel safe coming to work.
Anyone else? Randy?
Yes, Michael and Jamie, thank you for putting this together. Yeah, I agree. It's a scary world out there, but also it's a lot of money. So is this plan to have security at all of our meetings, including committee meetings, or just legislature meetings?
Yes, that's how this was played out. That's how this was planned out. So it would not only be the legislature meetings, but also all the committee meetings. And we worked with Katrina to get a list of all those meetings so we could put together a staffing plan to accommodate that need.
Is there any reason that legally that once the meetings start, we don't just lock the doors? And then they would have to be, the bell would have to be, they'd have to be belled in, so to speak. I know for me, when a legislature meeting, every time this door opens behind me, I'm just kind of going, oh boy, you know? And I don't like it being behind me, and I'm just trying to think if there's some way for us to control.
I think Katrina may have a comment on that.
It's a public meeting, and we need to allow the public to enter, and it would be a staffing issue sometimes if staff is not available in the room to get up and unlock doors and stuff. But I would say that we do need to keep the room unlocked.
Open meetings law.
But Michael and Jamie, is it technology available for cameras to see people? And isn't that really the first deterrent, is to see things happening before they happen?
I definitely think that that's part of it, Randy, but I also think, you know, the physical presence can often be a deterrent. And part of this resolution also included a screening process. So that, we're screening people before they come up into chambers. And that would require staffing in order to do that.
So and my last question. So is this all for this building?
No. In order to accommodate the needs of the evening meetings that the legislature has and also during the day, part of the proposal we put together last year for the public safety, Division of Public Safety and Security, was to really staff both Green Street and Whole Health on Brown Road. So when we looked at the needs of all the various committee meetings and the needs for the evening meetings, we had to come up with a staffing plan that would allow us to have ample staff to do that, but we also realized there's going to be gaps throughout the day where they wouldn't necessarily need to be at chambers. So part of the vision was a return back to the original staffing model that we looked at last year and build that into this and then move staff around throughout the day based on the needs at the chambers and the needs at the other buildings that we had already identified needing a public safety presence in.
Shauna?
I just had a few more questions as far as coverage. We know that probably in the next 6 months, we're going to have 2 departments that are going to move to Dutch Mill. Are they going to be on the coverage list, assessment and Office for the Aging?
So we haven't really assessed that building in the totality, but I think it's a fair question. I do not believe that all the buildings are going to need a physical presence. I think a lot will depend, and we haven't really been brought into the loop yet about that building or had a chance to really assess that space. But I am not of the belief that every single building will need a physical presence. And I think this speaks to what Randy brought up about leveraging other technology that we have. And so, we do have some vision around that as well. But I don't necessarily, I don't want to commit to it right now, Shauna, if that's okay.
Sure.
But I don't think that every single building will need to have a security presence.
I think some of the rhetoric that we've seen in some of the local threats have been around taxes. And so that's why I'm asking. I just want to make sure that our assessment and that they're protected out there as well.
That's a fair point.
Thank you.
Well taken.
Deborah?
Yeah, Shauna raised the point I wanted to raise. Jay needs protection.
I'm sorry, read that?
Yes, thank you.
I don't think anyone would be surprised to know that I'm reluctant about these things. I think being open to the public as much as possible is so much more important. But having heard the discussion among legislators and what their desire is, I will support this. Anyone else? No, Norma?
I just wanted to add that this has been added to the 2026 budget and has been supported in the county administrator's recommendation.
Okay, anything else? Are we ready to vote? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Let's see, we've got another resolution. Ratification of the agreement between the County of Tompkins and the Tompkins County Corrections Officers. Someone want to move that one? Veronica moves it, seconded by Deborah. Who's going to talk to us about this one? Norma?
I can.
You're up.
Sure. Yeah, so this has been, this was an agreement that was worked on between the sheriff and the Corrections Association. And we have set aside funding to support the agreement in the 2026 budget. So this will not increase our tax levy over what's been presented to the legislature. And I can try to answer any other questions that folks might have.
We have had significant discussion about this one over the last 2-3 weeks. Anybody have any further questions for Norma from administration? Ready to vote? Those in favor? Any opposed? That's unanimous. Committee member reports. Who'd like to talk to us? Deborah.
Yeah, I don't know if this is necessarily for our committee, but I'm going to be bringing it up at the legislature meeting as well. So Ronnie and I went and got our COVID shots a couple days ago. And we get them at the same drugstore all the time, and usually it just goes on Medicare and they're free. But there was some question this time, and they had to check to see if Medicare would cover it or if we'd have to pay the deductible. Well, as it happens, Medicare does cover it, and I'm very fortunate to have it. But the deductible for those shots now is $76. Now, as we move into a period of time where fewer people are going to have medical coverage and Medicaid, I'm really concerned that people are going to have to make tough choices. $76 is a lot of money. And I think we ought to be considering the possibility that we're going to be heading into another health crisis. Probably not as serious as 2020, but still, I think we need to be considering how we're going to prepare for that. So.
Shauna?
I guess in hearing that, would it be an option for the county to have a clinic for people that are unable to afford vaccine? I mean, I know that we would have to pay for it, but my assumption is probably there's an administrative fee that Kenny or your pharmacy is charging. And then, you know, if we could use our staff, then it would just be purchasing the vaccine.
I don't know. I'm bringing it up because I think we need to brainstorm.
Maybe the health committee should look at that.
I think it also would be something we have to talk to HR about, is for potential need for working from home or some of those other things that we did during the pandemic. So yeah, we'll work with that. We'll work on it and let you know.
Thank you.
We have in the past, working through our prescription provider, had flu clinics. I don't know whether they could add COVID to that or not, whether they could do it at the same time or not. Maybe Ruby has an answer to that.
I believe last year the consortium ended providing the flu clinics. This year, we have provided locations where employees can get the vaccination. There were issues with payments, costs, and staffing, so it wasn't really conducive for the consortium to continue to offer that.
I do know, it's been in the papers that two large drug chains, CVS and Walgreens, had a question about whether they were going to continue the same way they were doing. I don't know whether that's the ones you dealt with or not, but this is, I agree, a very serious issue. And we don't want to have, with all our student population, we don't want to have this be a repeat of COVID. Randy.
I would agree with that. Our healthcare system's a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And the costs are out of control. I really like Robert Kennedy Jr. I know a lot of people don't, only because he's shaking the tree. And he's making people rethink things. And we have, obviously what we've been doing does not work. It hasn't worked, and the costs are out of control. So we got to figure out, I don't like some of the cuts, obviously, that are happening. But I think that we need to look at this, and these pharmaceutical companies that are making billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars on this stuff, I'm really struggling with it. So, but I will also say that COVID was the 10th leading cause of death in 23, I believe. But it's no longer number 10. It's dropped out. Suicide is now up to number 10. COVID is like 13 or 14 now and 24, I think, something like that. But suicide's up to number 10. So.
Go ahead, Deb.
Yeah, but regardless of whether it's the leading cause of death or in the top 10, there are still a lot of expenses that are attendant on people getting a serious case of COVID. So I think there's a cost benefit to vaccinations, because I don't think anybody can seriously argue that the vaccine didn't help end the pandemic.
Especially certain populations.
Yes.
Deborah, thank you for bringing this up. This is something that I think concerns all of us.
Well, it surprised me.
I haven't gone for mine yet, so we'll see what happens. Are there any other member reports?
I've never had a flu shot, I never will.
I've always taken them, and I always will.
I'm glad you sit on the outside.
And I have real questions about RFK Jr.
You're here.
I just would make one comment, and it was 24 years ago today that we lost 3,000 New Yorkers to, and others to a terrorist event. And I think we should think about that. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but by people who were dedicated to hatred of our system of government, hatred of our equality for women, and the hatred of our openness to various religions and no religion. And I'm glad that we memorialize that at the Trade Center Memorial in New York City, and I think the other places where people were killed in the airplanes and in Pennsylvania and at the Pentagon, it could happen again. And that's why we have to stay vigilant and why we have to come together. I can't think of a time where we were more together than we were then, and I can't think of a time that we're more separated than we are right now. Shauna.
Yeah, I just want to add, there's also a group of individuals who were absolutely brave and courageous and went in to save people that were part, and for a very long time cleaned up the rubble. And many of those individuals are suffering right now from sicknesses and cancer. And there's also been a group of that population that is no longer with us because they have committed suicide, because the mental turmoil has been way too much for them. So I just want to acknowledge the loss of those individuals and people that are suffering because they're sick right now.
Thank you. Veronica.
Adding on to that, and thank you, 2 mornings ago at the NISAC conference, some of us got to hear Dr. Gregory Wee speak on this issue. He was a survivor of the September 11 attacks at the World Trade Center. He wasn't in the center, but was on the ground, described what happened. He also was an impromptu first responder, talked about sewing up someone's wounds in a random conference room in a hospital, no nurses, no assistants, no anything. And he also found out that night that his sister Susan had been killed in the attacks. So he's a survivor, first responder, and a family member. And he gave a really powerful talk about trying to communicate like what really happened on that day and the effects that we don't think of necessarily lasting afterwards, like Shauna spoke of. For some of those reasons, like cancers, like suicide, from that day to this, the last 24 years, I think on average, he said 4 people a week have been dying still due to the effects of those attacks on September 11th. So yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn from Dr. Wee and would recommend it if you all do, and appreciate Mike bringing this up. Also, happy birthday to my mom.
Happy birthday. Anyone else? Well, we're doing pretty good. It's 10:15, so we've got through it an hour and 15 minutes, and I think we're adjourned.